You are listening to the Kinky Coach podcast with Stephanie
and Fox.
Hey, Fox.
Yeah?
You've been a bad boy.
Naughty boy. Naughty boys should be punished.
This show contains explicit content
And is intended for mature audiences only.
This is what happens when an innocent, successful mental health professional
Falls for a rugged, prior deployed bad boy. You get one hell of a ride. So have you ever heard of a sex surrogate?
A sex surrogate?
A surrogate partner.
I've heard like of a surrogate mother who helps a couple with, birthing needs.
Birthing needs?
Birthing.
Birthing.
But look, I was in the Navy. Birthing is a real thing. Okay.
Okay.
Don't make fun.
Well, so I have the pleasure today to bring onto the show Dr. Lori Bennett Cook. And she is a graduate level clinical sexologist. She has her doctorate degree in human sexuality, and she specializes in surrogate partner therapy, where she works with clients and therapists. It's kind of like a triadic model, and we'll talk more about that, to assist clients becoming more comfortable with their sexual selves.
Okay, so I heard a lot of letters and titles, which tells me she is by far a subject matter expert.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So help me welcome onto our show Dr. Lori Bennett Cook.
Hi, Lori.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited. So I got the pleasure to, sit in on one of your talks through my class that I'm in, the school that I'm going to, and I was just blown away by you, your personality, your charisma, and I told him immediately, so we have to have her on the show.
Thank you. You make me sound much better than I probably am, but thank you for the flattery.
So not many people really understand or have even heard of a surrogate partner. So can you kind of fill us in give us a little brief history about that?
Sure. Most people, as you said, believe when they hear surrogate, they think of somebody that is offering to carry a baby for somebody and be the surrogate incubator, holder of the baby, whatever it is, stand in so that someone can have a healthy childbirth for whatever reason. Surrogate partner therapy is along the similar line in that it is a stand-in, but it is for a partner, for someone who does not have one, that wishes to experience partnership, sexual activity, and sexual exploration. It started back with Masters and Johnson many, many years ago. They found that when working with couples and sending them home with exercises to learn how to enjoy each other's company better, to learn how to see what buttons to push to get each other more aroused and excited, etc., worked very well, but they had people in their study that weren't partnered. So for the people that weren't partnered, they paired them with sex workers. And they found that those who were paired with sex workers actually did better than those who were paired in a relationship, because the communication skills they had to develop, the interaction that it took, the vulnerability. People were taken from all walks of life. They found that this was so effective that some therapists took it on also and found that they had many clients that would benefit from this work. So they too would hire sex workers, and found that with the proper training, people that were familiar and comfortable working with their bodies with other people were then trained to work as surrogate partners. And they would work with everything from teaching somebody how to go on a date or hold hands or kiss, what different body types are like. Maybe they had acute or chronic disabilities. Maybe they were transgender and discovering their bodies. Maybe they were older versions. The The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been very effective over the years.
So now, are these clients people that have never experienced this type of bond or stimulation, or is it for those and also for others who are having trouble with it?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, it can run the gamut for anybody that needs help with their sexuality. And as we know, sex is tactile. Like most tactile things, we learn by doing.
Mm-hmm.
And in a safe container with a professional, it can be done very well. People have a lot to learn.
What is, I'm kind of piggybacking off of his question, what sort of characteristics or dynamics do the clients have that come to you generally?
You know, it really varies. Some clients are older virgins, like I said. The oldest that I've worked with was 78. By virgins, I might be the first person whose hand they've held, who they have ever spooned with, the first adult naked body that they've ever seen in real life, not just a picture. People who have been disabled and maybe have had a lot of traumatic experience in having caretakers abuse them sexually and would like some positive experiences and some work around how to help express boundaries and better create safe environments for them in a sexual way. Many times people with disabilities are overlooked as being sexual beings. Who are transgender, that are having new explorations with new body parts or new sensations that they haven't become accustomed with. The list goes on and on, really. Anybody that could benefit from tactile experience sexually.
I know that you've been to all kinds of schools and you have got all kinds of titles. Tell me a little bit about the certification process for how you became a partnered surrogate or surrogate partner.
Sure. It was probably the best training I've ever received. It was through the International Professional Surrogates Association, also known as IPSA, in Los Angeles. They do probably most of the training for surrogates. They're the people that have run it. The woman that is the president of it now is probably one of the oldest surrogates in the country. She's still working. It went very thoroughly, and it put each of us in the position of we paired with somebody during the training and put us in the position of what it's like to be both the surrogate and what it's like to be the client. And we worked together in both of those roles with somebody that would stand in and be the therapist, would be that third leg that kind of holds all the pieces together. We journaled every day. We went through all the steps from beginning to end. It was 2 weeks. We stayed in the same house, all of us together. It was very, very intense. And considering most surrogate programs last many, many months, if not over a year, you can imagine there was a lot to try to fit into just that bit of time.
Sure, I can't even imagine. So how do you counteract I don't know if it's common, but what's the word I'm trying to think of? How do you counteract someone who comes to you and says, you're just a paid sex worker, a legal sex worker?
Well, theoretically, they're not wrong. I have been a legal sex worker as well, so I can pretty much argue the difference in those two. First of all, if I was to be just a regular sex worker, it's going to cost you a lot more money. Secondly, I mean, really, and you're there for somebody's fantasy, and it's not about actually helping somebody heal and learn how to grow so that, I do my job right as a surrogate. I work my way out of working with you so that you can go on and learn the skills, take the skills, and apply them to an actual relationship with somebody else. As a sex worker, I'm there to fulfill whatever fantasy it is that you have, and it's a lot of fun, and it's, hopefully repeat business.
Okay.
So technically, babe, I am your sex worker.
You're my sex worker.
Yes. You just don't pay me.
Oh, I pay you.
If you pay me, I don't see the checks coming through my account.
Oh, really? I pay you in other ways.
Okay.
Hey Kinky Nation, do you need help with navigating the swinging lifestyle? Fox and I offer personalized coaching services designed specifically for your relationship needs.
Are you the person that all your friends turn to when they have questions about sex? You should check out the Kinky Coach Sex Coach Certification course and get paid for sex coaching instead of doing it for free. Just go to kinkycoach.com.
Lastly, if you feel that you are in need of therapeutic services for your relationship or individually, please visit Beautiful Beginnings with an S, LLC.org for more information on the counseling services I offer. Okay, Kinky Nation, let's get back to the show.
Quid pro quo type deal?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
I have just so many questions going through my head. I just can't even verbalize.
So I have a question. Obviously, this is, a very thorough process. You've gone through great, extensive education to get where you're at. Have you at any time, because essentially you are getting into a full-blown relationship, whatever that looks like or means for that individual, right, based off their need, has there ever been a time where you or a client has fallen for each other?
That's a really good question. I'm glad that you asked that. I have not ever fallen for a client. Clients will fall for me. And that's actually very healthy. And it's good that they do, because these are experiences that they most of the time have not had. And to be able to have that in a safe, structured way is very healthy for them. So the clients that come to me, first of all, they're clients. They could be, it's very, very vulnerable place that they're putting themselves in to hire somebody to help them with different things. The relationship, while my care for them is very genuine and very real, keep in mind that as a professional, I'm also very aware of the disparity of power that's in place. I'm very aware of the fact that they don't know me. They only know what I present those couple of hours a week that we're together. I am there for their benefit. It is not a mutual exchange in that I'm vulnerable with them and they're there to help me through my needs and my process, etc. I'm there for them. And anything that comes up between the two of us that needs more processing is then taken to their therapist for them to process more. So yes, they fall for me, and it's important that they do, because it's important to experience real emotional caring feelings, because it's supposed to be and mimic an actual relationship. But no, I do not. I may love and care about my clients, but no, I don't fall in love with my clients, because it's just
unethical.
Right. Well, and it's not just that it's not ethical. I mean, it is unethical, but it's just, for me, it just wouldn't be possible, because it's just, I'm not. When you're in a relationship, you have two people that are both able to mutually be vulnerable and hold space, hopefully, and, share their hopes and dreams and desires. And that's not happening in this scenario.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely makes sense. And you had talked about the therapist. Now, how do you work within that therapeutic relationship? Because I know it's like a triadic relationship. Tell me what that looks like. Because, I want clients. I could send you clients if you were in, Texas.
I would love if you did. And I travel, and clients travel as well. So, the therapist oversees everything. The therapist is usually the one who does the contacting. Or if a client will contact me, I will suggest, depending on where they are, different therapists that they can see. Right now, there's a lot of teletherapy happening, which is very helpful. The therapist will be the one to decide if they think that their client is ready for such a process, because it is very vulnerable. It puts somebody in a very, vulnerable state, I guess I could say, not to overuse the word, but, it can be a bit scary. So the client ideally would see me early in the week, and we would initially we would meet together, all three of us, whether it's online or it's in the office or something, and just kind of do an introduction in a place that is safe with the client, and the client is usually safe with their therapist. And then the client and I would meet early in the week. We would have our session, and then later in the week, after our session, I would call the therapist, tell them what we exercises we did, what challenges came up, where the client struggled, where they had, excelled. And then the client and the therapist would meet later in the week and process, and then the therapist would call me again, say, this is what we'd like to work on the next week, etc. In the beginning, it might feel a little remedial, but it's really important because we will be working physically together and eventually erotically together. The first couple sessions are just talk and are just getting to know each other, the client and I, and just kind of reading each other and seeing where we're comfortable beginning. And then the therapist, again, will reinforce and help process that even more. It just goes on.
So can I give a scenario, just a made up, completely off the top of my head scenario, and just kind of you walk me through how you would work with that person?
Sure.
Okay. So let's say I have a 55-year-old man who has never been with a female or a male in any way, any sexual capacity, doesn't even know how to hold hands, and cannot have any interpersonal relationships. Mm-hmm. And so I sent him to you. How would that process look?
Our first couple sessions would probably just be talking, getting to know each other. I would be gauging his ability to have conversation, make eye contact, finding out where his comfort levels are, where his fears are around getting that close to another person. Sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's just bad experiences, sometimes it's shyness. It could be any number of things. It could be somebody on the spectrum. We don't know until we actually spend some time together and kind of figure out how to read them. And then from there, I would teach that person how to interact with me as, I'm the template. So we would practice interacting with each other, whether it's just carrying on conversation. Maybe we would go to lunch together and see how we interact in public together, out and about. We'd go for a walk together. In time, we'd start doing, as the therapist and I agree, we would start doing things like, let's hold hands, let's spoon for a bit, let's caress each other's feet, let's move forward like that. Someone like that, it would probably take a little while to get to an erotic place, because there would probably be a lot of trust that would need to be built. But then once we finally got to that place, then we would take that slow as well, and as they're comfortable, because it can be traumatic if things move too fast. If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
So this is all very interesting, because I know when Stephanie first brought your profession to me and said, we're going to be doing this interview, my immediate thought process, or my immediate thoughts, went directly to, okay, so this doctor, is licensed and certified to basically get involved with individuals on a relationship basis. And I thought, and this is my assumption, was that it was more streamlined, where you would just meet them, get into a natural relationship and allow it to flow. But it honestly sounds like it's a more delicate and trusting process, where even though there can't be an exact roadmap, because every situation is different and every client is different, it's definitely very thought out and very safe, is what it sounds like.
It has to be. It's therapy. So, it does have to be well thought out. And the patients that come to us, whether it's me working as a surrogate, anybody working as a therapist, a counselor, anything, when people come to us, if we are not careful, we have more power to do damage than we do to do good. So it's really important that we take a look at the whole being in front of us and honor that sacred place that they're in, and the vulnerability that they are bringing to the table, and the trust that they are handing over to us.
Yes, that's a very important point, though. But he didn't have a clue. He was just like, okay, I don't understand it. And I said, well, you will when you meet her. Let's just
Well, I had an idea, but it was more. So my immediate idea was more sexual based, obviously, right? But hearing you, Lori, talk about this, it is truly within 20 minutes of you talking. My ideas of this have already completely changed just by the thoroughness and the responsibility that you take, especially the way you speak about the process. This is
intriguing.
It's very intriguing. It sounds like it's a very good thing, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of intimacy issues or are afraid. And honestly, if you can pay for a professional, not a sex professional, right? But a sex professional, but someone that is highly qualified in the intimacy department, communication department, and is working side by side with your therapist. I mean, I don't know what program could be better than that.
I agree.
Well, thank you. I'd like to add, though, that, I want to be really careful not to disregard that there are some very conscious sex workers out there, and I'm very pro-sex worker. While this is different, very different from surrogacy is very different from sex work, there are a lot of sex workers out there that are doing good. And it would be good if that was decriminalized, because for some people, for their sex life, that is the only place they have to go. That is their choice and desire to be in the arms of a sex worker. So it's something that, I don't want to play one against the other. They just serve different purposes.
No, and I'm really glad you said that. So a little bit about my background is I was in law enforcement, federal law enforcement to be exact, for about 14 and a half years. And I'll tell you that I know that a lot of law enforcement is very is just that. We're very pro sex worker, even though it is considered a criminal act. And I know a lot of people wish it would just be legalized and taxed as it is over in Amsterdam and other countries, because there's a lot of not only medical benefits to it, but mental health benefits as well.
And safety.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, you have people that are, I'm very opposed to people having to work with pimps or be on the street or be trafficked. That's a whole nother topic entirely. But for those who choose to do sex work, unfortunately, if they are harmed in any capacity, it's not going to be reported most of the time, because the support is not there for those people. So I'm fortunate that, I never encountered anything negative like that when I was doing traditional sex work. I'm fortunate that as a surrogate, I'm in a gray area that permits me to do what I do. But there are a lot of people out there doing good work that are not given the credit that they deserve.
Sure. Absolutely.
You've made mention in our class, and you haven't mentioned it tonight, so I'm just going to throw it out there, that you don't always end up having sex with your clients, or it not always turns into an erotic nature.
That is very true. Actual sex is probably the least of it. Most clients don't actually get to intercourse. Most clients find themselves getting to a place where they're pretty comfortable, and they find many times that it's not the sex per se as much as it is being able to feel control and autonomy for their body, to be able to feel safe if they were to be in a sexually charged place, or to be able to know that allowing themselves to be vulnerable is okay with another person. Intimacy and trust are so powerful, and they usually find that those tools are enough to go forward there and then explore sexually with somebody else.
It's a really good point. So I have a question. So Stephanie and I are in a non-traditional relationship. And what I mean by that is we are both in a consensual, non-monogamous relationship together. Where we share our bodies in our bedroom with other individuals of our choosing. After a lot of communication and a lot of vetting, a lot of safety put in place, etc. So if somebody or a couple was in the lifestyle and they wanted to safely, I guess, see if that was for them, is that something that you would take on in your profession?
That's another good question. That's something that I have taken on as a sex worker, but not as necessarily a surrogate. As a surrogate, I have worked with couples when they have struggles with their sexuality. Maybe one of them, maybe the wife has vaginismus or the husband has erectile challenges or something like that. And working with them together, hands-on, to figure out how to make it so that the two of them can enjoy sex together better. As a sex worker, if somebody was looking to explore a threesome and what's that like to have sex outside the relationship, a sex worker would be better equipped for that purpose, and that's something I've done in that realm.
Okay.
Because they're two different things that people would be looking for. Does that make sense?
Very much so.
Yeah. What do you want the world to know about your profession? And just, I mean, we've talked about some really good points, but what's the one thing that you want the world to fully understand about your profession?
Not necessarily just my profession, but sex in general, I guess, is that it's the root of, I mean, all of us got here through sex. We are sex. To take the shame away from it, how people come about learning to have pleasure or discovering themselves, whether they meet a professional, whether they explored with friends when they were growing up, whether they were 14 when they had their first sexual experience, whether they were 47. It's all okay. It's all very different. There is no one way to do anything, and to just, I guess, stop the shame and just give each other a break. Recognize that we're all sexual beings, and it's so charged and it's so heavy because it's sex, and it really doesn't need to be, because we're all made of the same stuff.
Exactly. You also mentioned that you help with those who are experiencing some sort of disability.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that and we have a show coming up pretty soon about sex and disabilities, is that the common misconception that if you're disabled, you're not sexual.
Exactly. It's a horrible misconception. So
kind of walk me through a process with someone who's disabled. Like, do you continue, and I'm not talking about, let's go with physically disabled. They're in a wheelchair. How do you work with them on accepting their bodies and their sexuality and learning their preferences?
I would work with them the same as I would work with any client. We would find out what it is that, their fears are, what their hopes are. We would work around them. The disability is just a different packaging. It doesn't mean that the soul of the person is a different kind of a person to work with. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So what you're saying is, even if they're disabled, they're still human and still have desires, and they're still amazing people.
Completely.
I agree.
Yeah, and they're just as sexually charged as the next person.
If not more.
If not more. And unfortunately have many times just been so overlooked that way and handled, so clinically, and everybody wants to experience, most everybody wants to experience touch and desire, and not just acceptance, but wanting.
It's interesting because, I was prior military, and even in law enforcement, I have a lot of buddies and female friends that are now disabled for, one act or another. And I think the biggest thing my buddy Turbo would tell me is, being disabled doesn't mean different.
Thank you.
Yes. Period. You are still a person. You just now have an adaptation, whether or not you were born with it or whether it was forced upon you through a traumatic event. But it hasn't changed the makeup of your humanity or your sexuality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, obviously, with your line of work, there has to be some type of stigma out there. I know with Stephanie and I, there's many stigmas about people in the lifestyle, all the way from...
We're going to hell!
Yeah, we're over-sexualized to we're just sluts to all of you have STDs or STIs to, you're all sinners, and I can go on and on and on. And receiving some of those emails and phone calls and listening to those voicemails at this point in our careers is more entertaining.
It's comical
than it is anything. So what are some of the stigmas you hear about your profession that you would like to address?
Oh, I've heard all the stigmas too. My husband and I have been non-monogamous the entire 20 years that we've been together. I'm a former sex worker. I'm a surrogate. I work in sex therapy. I have, just all the stigmas, all the things that you hear. Most people think that I'm just, as far as surrogacy goes, many people will say, you've just found a way to be a legal hooker. And, a lot of it's ignorance. A lot of it is just, most of it, people just have an issue with themselves. I've been very fortunate. I have not ever had anything anybody has ever said to me through the entirety of all of this ever stick. And I think that's because I have a really, really strong belief that nobody can shame me for what I own. And I don't have issues with the fact that I'm non-monogamous. I don't have issues with the fact that I've done sex work. I don't have issues with the fact that I do surrogacy or that I educate and talk about sex on a daily basis. If somebody has issues with it, they can talk to me about it if they want to, but those are their issues, obviously not mine. And a lot of it comes from ignorance. A lot of it just lack of knowing about, fully about something. Most people are just curious. Once they find out, they may have a better understanding. That doesn't mean that they'll admit it either, because we're a pretty judgy society. So, yeah, I don't really worry about it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny as I guess the new word is fluid, or
it's gender fluidity.
Well, I just mean in general, not
okay.
even gender based. Supposedly we live in a day and age where everything is acceptable. However, no one accepts it.
It's not. I was actually, just before coming on here, I was talking with a friend of mine on Facebook Messenger, because we're in one of the polyamory groups on, line and stuff. And it's fascinating to me how many groups, I'm in poly groups and swinger groups and sex worker groups. And it's very funny to me how much infighting there is and how much judgment there is on, everybody has their own way of doing thing. And of course, my way's the right way. And we'd do so much better if we just recognize that everybody does things differently, and that's okay. As long as the people who are involved with each other are in agreement, then it's really none of our business,
Completely agreed.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time in your career where you felt unsafe?
Fortunately for me, no. When I did sex work, I worked at a brothel in Nevada, and we had security and everything there, so that was very safe, and I quite enjoyed my time there. When I did escorting, all of the clients that I had were all referred to me by somebody else, so I wasn't afraid of who they were or where they were coming from. There was always somebody that could vouch for them. The few times that I had kind of just an uneasy feeling about getting together with somebody, I would just cancel. And, if it upset somebody, it upset them, but it wasn't, however much money wasn't worth it to me. So I just learned to really trust my gut.
Sure.
Yeah, I have found over the years that I have been treated better by many of my clients than by people I have dated. Since doing sex work, I became much more selective about who I would date and see than I was before sex work.
I can definitely see that. It would bring out. How do you how do you differentiate? How do you compartmentalize?
In what way?
In relationships versus, I guess, clients. To me, it's just so fascinating to me.
Again, clients are, they are there for their enjoyment and purpose and way. And it's not to say I don't enjoy myself, because I do, but it's not about me.
Yeah.
It's about them. Like, they are there for them, and I am providing a service, and I get to provide sexy time and steal away and fantasy and, all the things that make that person feel like they're on top of the world for that time that they're with me. It's about them. And most people just really are looking for someone to just be completely present and enjoy. And it's genuine. I genuinely do enjoy and put my full self out there, but it's not a two-way street. So
this sounds like a great retirement gig for me. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking at all.
No, I mean, my clients don't get to see me when I'm just like grungy and, working in the garden, and then I'm fed up because I have to go make dinner now. Like, that's not who they get.
Right.
So relationship people get that.
They get the top-notch you all the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you ever get tired of just sex?
Sometimes, yeah. Not so much now, but when I was working at the brothel, I did, because I would have several clients a day. I had, at least 2 or 3, and the busiest day I ever had was 17.
Oh my.
And I worked week on, week off, and I would come home and just be exhausted and just, unless you're going to give me a massage, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Doing surrogate work, I get tired if I have had a lot of clients, and by a lot I mean 4 or 5 a week, because that's a different kind of tired. It's not just physical, but it's emotional, and you're holding so much space for somebody. It can just, and then I do counseling on top of it, so it can be really exhausting that way too. But I have a very, very understanding partner who will rub my feet and watch, uptight British movies with me, and just, anything that's not sexual, I'm like all about when I'm in that headspace. So,
So what do you do for self-care personally?
Personally, I like to garden, paint rocks, read. I love reading. Quiet time, I find myself very solitary. Yeah, hike, ride my bike.
So I hear a lot of solo activities for your self-care.
Yeah.
I can
don't
imagine.
Have to be on for anybody.
Yeah, but being on is having to be on for other people all the time. I can just imagine how exhausting that is.
It is, but I'm thankful that I have the capacity for it.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, and I have good people around me that get that I can recharge, and that understand that I don't have to reach out to people all the time. If I go quiet for a couple of weeks, it's just, just where I'm at. Doesn't mean I'm mad at anybody. I just need a little recharge. So, yeah.
You have some nonprofit organizations as well. Do you want to talk about those?
Sure. I sit on the advisory board for Sex Positive World. It's an organization started about 10 years ago, and we offer education and workshops and advocacy and outreach, and we have chapters all over the world. For a few years, I was the director of the Los Angeles chapter, which is grown and has a great director now. He's doing amazing things in spite of the fact that we're in the middle of a pandemic and not meeting in person. He keeps that calendar really full. And then I started the Sex Positive Utah chapter about 2 or 3 years ago. We were doing pretty good up until the pandemic, and a lot of people here have pretty big families, so it's harder for people to get online and to encourage. But we have partnered with Sex Positive World, which is doing events online all over. But hopefully we can get back to events. We have a level system where we have everything from outreach and education to hands-on workshops to full-on sex parties, which are few and far between, but they're pretty fun when they do happen.
I can imagine. Mm-hmm. And I imagine everybody right now is just craving that physical touch and intimacy
Oh, so much. You know, cuddle parties were quite the thing pre-COVID, and it's been sad to see that have to go by the wayside for a bit.
Yeah. Well, do you have any other questions for her?
Well, I don't know. Questions. Amidst you guys talking, I looked up. So I know Nevada right now is the only, is the only state that allows legal prostitution within a legalized and licensed brothel. But I didn't realize there were so many. So of course I just looked it up. And I'm sure that everyone knows like the HBO special brothel, and I don't even remember what that was called. I think it was like the
Cat House.
Penthouse or Bunny Ranch or
It was called Cat House. Yeah.
Cat House, right? But there's actually 21 currently, as of last year, 21 legalized and licensed brothels in the state of Nevada.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that. See? It's the information.
Yeah, some of them, there's only a couple of them that are pretty big, and there's many of them that are just the size of like a double wide trailer.
Oh.
So it really, it depends on where you go and what county you're in. But those outside of Sparks / Reno, Nevada, and outside of Vegas are the biggest ones. And then there's Bunny Ranch I think it's in Carson City. That's a pretty good size as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I've wanted to visit one for research purposes.
Do you?
Well, I'll tell you what. When I got hired, the way I got hired is because I had gone to, I went on a Cat House poker run, it's called. They didn't have it this year because of COVID, but it's every September part of the Street Vibrations motorcycle rally.
Okay.
And it's a poker run, so if you ride a motorcycle, and even if you don't, you can probably, enjoy it. But you go and hop from brothel to brothel, and they open them up for tours, and you can talk to the people that work there and get a feel for it. And it's real fun and festive and kind of fun to actually just like check out the place and see what goes on and talk to the ladies that are working. And yeah,
I would love that.
So I've never had anyone on the back of my motorcycle, and now I'm getting stared down.
Yes.
I bought my own motorcycle, so thank you to a client. It was a down payment on that thing. So
I've been trying to talk her into it, but she keeps telling me I just want to wear a thong and low-rise jeans, babe.
Oh my gosh!
It's true. I'm gonna be honest about what you told me. You're like, I just want to ride. I don't want to ride.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything about low-ride jeans and thongs.
Absolutely you did.
Oh,
that's what I heard.
That's what you heard.
The uniform, huh?
I would definitely let you lead if you were riding your bike in low-rise jeans and a thong.
My butt crack would get sunburnt.
Well,
I burn too easily for that.
That's what suntan lotion is for.
Right?
It protects you. Protects your skin. I'm just
It's very
you know.
important to put it on too. I will tell you, I wore a full fishnet bodysuit one year.
Yeah.
It looked kick-ass, very sexy, but I forgot to put on any sunscreen. So the sunburn following that was it was interesting.
Very patterned.
Yep.
That would make for an interesting dinner conversation.
Plus,
yeah.
until you have ridden and ridden in a large poker run like that, you babe, you don't know what you're missing out on.
I want to. Let's do it.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
We'll have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I've officially invited myself to Lori's trip.
And my sister lives right outside of Reno.
Okay. Yeah.
So
There you go.
hint, hint. Go get your motorcycle license.
No, hint, hint. I want to ride the back of yours.
Nah, she'll look good on the back.
See, there you go. You want to run the back of mine.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I just have loved speaking with you. I've loved learning from you. I follow you on Instagram. And I just, you're just the most fascinating person I've met in a while. Yeah, I just couldn't wait to get you on here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. I really enjoy talking with both of you.
Well, hopefully we can meet and go to the poker run together.
That'd be fantastic.
So, and I'm terrible with endings, so I'm gonna I'm so awkward. I'm like the worst awkward turtle ever when it comes to trying to wrap these things up.
Well, I think you just wrapped it up.
Did I?
I think that
I
was the
think
end
you
of the
did.
show. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself here today.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you,
And we will
Lori.
talk to you soon. Hey, Fox.
Not again.
Why don't you tell them where they can find us?
Oh. So you can find us on the Bookface.
Facebook.
Yeah, that thing. At the Kinky Coach. Or you can find us at any of the adult beverage websites. You like that?
I do, yeah.
Yes, because you're tasty. You're thirsty. Yeah.
Yes, thirsty.
So you can look for either Luna _and_ Logan, or you can look for the Kiki Coach and her Silver Fox. Yep.
So thank you for listening, and we hope you have a very sexy evening.
Have a good night.
You are listening to the Kinky Coach podcast with Stephanie
And Fox.